I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yay! Happy Wednesday, everyone. You know what that means. The Stumptown After Show on AfterBuzz TV. I am your host, Ollie Drennan. I'm joined by none other than an esteemed, wonderful, intelligent writer, Rachel Goodman.
Hey, everybody. I'm very happy to be back here.
Yes, of course, I'm happy to be back with you. Unfortunately, our other panelist, Latoya, she's feeling a little under the weather, so she didn't make it here tonight, but we love her and support her, so go show her some love on social media. And also, Rachel, you are very in tune with the comics of Stumptown, because it is based on the comic book series.
Yeah.
So what have you been thinking about, like, kind of how that, is there any, like, parallels with the comics? Have you noticed yet?
I've read, so for the graphics, I've only read like the first 2 volumes. Mm-hmm. From what I've seen, the biggest comparison I can make is that the artwork really invokes the picture that we're seeing. Mm-hmm. There is some like crossover, but they're pretty much doing their own thing.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. I love that though. And I love kind of like the openings, which we'll talk about, and how there's always like a freeze frame and it's very comical. Literally, it's not only visually comical, but also like a comic book, but it's also very funny, usually, the openings and whatnot, which we'll talk about soon. But initial thoughts on this particular episode, we're talking about Till Decks Do Us Part.
Well, okay. First of all, I can't wait to get to our Stumped segment eventually, because I have something that's like I'm burning to say that we were talking about, so we'll get there. Yes. But overall, though, I absolutely loved the twist that we saw at the end. I loved that we actually saw Dex breaking up a marriage, which is a crazy word, which is a crazy verb to use, love, for the situation. But considering the circumstances, yeah, I was pretty happy with the outcome.
Mm-hmm. I just always love the music. Every single week, I'll stop the world and melt with you. During a fight scene. That plays during a fight scene. That plays during the whole breaking up of the marriage, the wedding ceremony. And you cannot just help but to love, laugh, and just live your best life when you're watching this show week after week on every Wednesday.
Absolutely. And the fact that they bookend the song too. And it's very, I love when they do that.
Yeah.
And like we even knew when we saw the opening, we're going to go back, whatever.
Oh my gosh. Yes. The opening, how it started. I love it when it's this crazy opening and there's fighting going on. You don't know really what's going, because we don't know what the heck's going on. And then it's kind of like, let me take you back a week and tell you how I got here in this situation. So I love situations like that. It never gets old, for sure.
Never. Especially this show, because it's kind of their quirk.
Mm-hmm. It's a very quirky show, that's for sure. Yeah. Not My Hero Academia, which is also an AfterBuzz. But before we get on to our first topic, we do have a live chat. If you're tuning in live, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Every single week, you can join the panel too if you tune in live. Give us your questions, your comments, and theories, and if not, that's totally fine. Leave them in the comments below, or hit us up on Twitter, or Instagram, or Facebook, because we love talking about the show, even when the after show isn't airing live. So why don't we get on to our first topic, Rachel, which is something that kind of like the C storyline, I would say, because there was an A, B, and C. And this particular one involved our boy Tuki. Love Adrian Martinez. He does such a fun job portraying Tuki. And Gray, which I don't know about you, but Gray he looks different. Like, there's something about him. I know that's probably more recent filmings, so he just looks, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like in the first episode, Gray looked a lot different to me. And I don't know if his physical appearance is kind of mirroring some kind of like inner change within him as well. I don't know if you're picking up on that, but the whole storyline with Gray and Tuki is Tuki's helping the Alibi, which is the bar that Gray works at, and he brings his taco truck in. He's basically trying to bring in more people into the bar because the Alibi's been getting bad reviews, where Tuki, he has such great food, and I'm getting hungry thinking about tacos and Mexican food because that's one of my favorites. But what did you think about this whole storyline with Tuki and Gray kind of being at odds with one another at the bar?
I felt like Gray was kind of being a brat.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, and it was really, so this is carrying over from last episode with everything with Tuki and the couple and, everything that was going on with them. And so I love when we get the carryover and that thread.
Mm-hmm. Which you don't get in this this particular show that much often.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
And even in this genre, like the crime procedural.
Perfect.
Usually
That's a perfect
you
term
move
for it.
on and it's like, okay, we're like monster of the week. Except in this
Right. No, that's a perfect way.
Yeah.
It's very NCIS and
Yeah.
Law and Order, where it's kind of a done, sealed thing. Move on to next week.
Yeah.
Something different.
Even something like Lucifer. Like, you always get a new storyline, typically, and not the later seasons, but usually it's more like what we've seen with Stumptown, where it's like, okay, here's a new storyline every week.
Mm-hmm.
So I love when they have moments like with Gray and Tuki where you actually see something carrying over. But yeah, just in general, I thought that Gray was kind of being a brat and was being really unfair to Tuki. And just, like, even when he stormed off and went to play video games, I was like, okay, why can't you just talk about this instead of, like, walking away?
And he just seems like he's really trying to isolate himself, Gray is. And I don't understand why, after everything that's happened, he's been helping Hoffman and everything kind of went successful with the whole shutting down the heroin dealers and whatnot. And I don't know if he's still upset with maybe he's sad that Max took his ride, even though he gave it to her. I don't know if she's going to come back, but something about him seems off, for lack of a better term, with Gray.
And maybe it is because he's dealing with the grief of losing somebody who he was interested in.
Mm-hmm. And even before Max, homegirl, the Heffa was evil, as Shay used to say on the after show a couple weeks ago. So I don't know if him and Gray, or not Gray, he is Gray. Gray and Dex seem like they're on better terms. So I don't know necessarily the full extent of Gray's unreasonable disposition in this episode with Tuki, because Tuki was trying his best. I know some things caught on fire in the beginning of the episode, but Tuki's just trying his best. Whenever you need Tuki, his help, he's always there to help them. Even in an episode where he tried to help Dex infiltrate and kind of be like a little, he was like pretending to be the janitor. I don't know if you remember that episode, but Tuki's always there to lend his hand and just to help. And I think he just does a phenomenal job. He won't do the best job, but he's going to do his best, and he's just always there for the people he cares about, regardless.
Now, what I did appreciate is at the end, kind of the revelations that we got from Gray, that he goes and he apologizes to Tuki. I appreciated that. And then he admits that he needs him and he's his idea person. I thought that was very big of him. But then the other thing I appreciated was the revelation of, you know what, maybe I'm just not in this as much as I need to be.
I know, because, he used to be a criminal. I don't know if maybe he wants to become a PI. I know that might be predictions, but maybe there's something about helping Hoffman and Dex in the past episodes. Maybe that's sparking some kind of newfound, I don't know, motivation for Gray, and maybe the bar life is just not for him anymore. I know this is predictions, but prediction territory, but he even kind of like going back to when he was apologizing to Tuki, he's calling him the ideas guy. You've helped with sales and whatnot, bringing people in. There's a guy at the bar who said one of the tacos coming back when Tuki did storm off because of their whole fight. And so I just love that he did apologize. He recognized that he was wrong in the matter, and that he even promoted Tuki to assistant manager.
Yeah, and I think that my thing with, not to get too predictions-y, but I feel like Gray might be leaning toward the crime life, and that's why we're seeing this huge change in him, because I think he got a taste of it from the last couple of episodes, and now he's back to thinking, well, my life feels unfulfilled, and that could be kind of like a hangover. He's now hungover from being in the middle of the thrill of the crime life, and he's back, and he's he's a civilian again.
No, I love that. And I love, it makes sense if he wants to maybe not be crime lord, maybe not a drug dealer, but maybe like I said, maybe some kind of vigilante even, for lack of a better term. And maybe Tuki and Ansel can kind of take over the bad alibi for a little bit. But any more thoughts before we move on to our next topics? Well, before we get on to our next topic, I do want to shout you guys out for letting us be the ESPN of TV Talk. We love talking about this show week after week, every Wednesday here at AfterBuzz TV. Don't we, Rachel? It's so fun. We're laughing. We miss our LaToya. We wish you were here, girl. But what you could do, if you could do us a solid, guys, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. We would really appreciate that. We love talking about this. Share it with your friends on Facebook and your family on Facebook. If you have your family on Facebook, just share it on all social media platforms.
TikTok
Even.
on TikTok.
Why not? I actually need to get. Do you have a TikTok?
I have a TikTok now.
I need to get one. I
have one follower. AfterBuzz TV.
I'll follow you.
Okay,
and I'll make my TikTok. But I do want to shout out one particular 5-star review that caught my eye when I was searching. And if you do give us a 5-star review, I will also shout you out on maybe possibly next week if you do that. So I just want to shout out EWES528491 on iTunes. They said, excellent post-game breakdown. So it's 5-star review. Remember, 5-star because the others don't work. But they said,
the clapping.
I've liked this show so far, and I'm hopeful for the rest of it. But I've been coming to this after show the whole time, and I can't get enough of this panel and their takes on it. They have such a good dynamic and bring insights that I would never have thought of otherwise. Great job, guys. So thank you so much, EWES. That really means a lot to us.
Thank you. All of your comments are amazing. So. Yeah. Keep them coming, guys.
Keep them coming because we miss stuff. I know I miss stuff. So this is why Rachel's here to help me out because she brings in so much good tea and things that I didn't even realize, just like you guys do week after week. So why don't we get on to our next topic?
Yeah.
Which was our boy Hoffman. Hoffman I feel bad for him because he's kind of battling his family, his family member, his dad. So Daddy Hoffman.
You know what pissed me off? The fact that Lionel would come back.
Lionel,
what a name. He threw I guess Hoffman was dealing weed when he was 17, and Lionel threw that in his face. Now, my guess is that Hoffman is in his 30s now. So that
maybe close to 40s, maybe. Yeah, no, mid-30s, 40s, yeah.
Yeah, so okay, more than half of his life has passed since that time. So
he's like, oh, well, how is it any different? Well, he was kind of a minor, and I feel weed and heroin are in kind of two different, 20 kilos of heroin, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, are kind of different, and they're adults. Those are adult dealers, too. So there's definitely different levels into that particular argument that Lionel brought up to his son.
I mean, opiate crisis versus marijuana.
Where everyone's calm and stoned and just want munchies, a munchie meal from Jack in the Box. Come on, bro.
Exactly.
Dad. But Daddy Hoffman versus Hoffman. But speaking of, I love that in this episode, I feel like there were so many people against one another. Like, there was kind of like these feuds, like we saw it with we're seeing it with the Hoffmans. We're seeing even as Mama Hoffman. We saw Gray versus Tuki, and then there's this whole family dynamic and Dex being thrown into the mix, which we'll talk about later, into the whole wedding fiasco. But this particular episode was with the Hoffmans, kind of going with their whole predicament and the heroin being thrown in there. But what did you think about Hoffman kind of fighting fire with fire and kind of investigating his dad and his past? I feel like Lionel has done some interesting, shady things in order to kind of buy justice, which we kind of get the sense of by the end of the episode. To quote air quotes, buy justice.
I didn't like Lionel attempting to justify the way that he practiced. I also think that Lionel did all of this by, took Chaz as a client to instigate Hoffman. And the whole thing is that at the end, when Lionel says, I'm proud of you for what you did to me, that's exactly, I think that Lionel's just trying to push him to be more like him. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I'm like, okay. And I think that's exactly why his mother reached out to him and said, you shouldn't do this, because she is afraid of Hoffman she's afraid of her husband pushing him. Like, it's not, I don't think that I think that Hoffman's mom knows he would never do that on his own because he's just not that kind of person.
Her son.
But I think she realizes that Lionel would be that person who would push him and would get Hoffman to then suddenly, start behaving more like Lionel.
Mm-hmm. This whole family is a mess. Like that, they're successful, they have money and whatnot. But it is interesting that you bring that whole concept up, because in the beginning, she's constantly, the dad does seem like he's trying to instigate something with his son, but the mom's like, no. And then this whole time, so the parents are already disagreeing on this whole this whole fiasco.
And it's interesting too, and I know we're going to talk about Dex's storyline more later, but the crossover of this like thread once again of kids from either wealthier families or kids from families who, you know, they might have a lawyer as their father, how they can somehow, they, you know, get away with doing certain things. And that's just how it was. And that to me was a very interesting concept because it is very true.
I was just shocked that his dad was proud of him by the end of the episode. I thought they were going to be even like at worst odds after that everything happened with Hoffman selling the rumors to the media, just as Lionel was trying to feed the media, trying to paint this picture, save face for the character. What was his name? Chaz?
Chaz.
Yeah. And so basically, you know, I was surprised that the dad was so accepting of him being like him, following suit of his footsteps, but at the same time, your job's in jeopardy when your son would be doing that to you. So I was surprised, but also okay with it at the same time, because it's like nice that they're on a similar level. I was just surprised because I thought there was going to be more to lose for Lionel, you know, because of these heavy rumors.
At first,
and it's still ongoing. Like, the case isn't done yet.
And I thought the same way you did at first, that Lionel was going to actually fight back with something even worse.
Yeah.
But then as we got to that dinner, the way that Lionel he looked like he had this very calm, neutral face. I was like, okay, he's going to come back and tell him that he likes what he did, that he likes what Hoffman did. And then, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's hard to kind of, like, how do you think of that? Like, this whole time you're being raised, your father's doing these kind of questionable things, these methods, this really unfair practice, yet all the money that he's made, all the success has also helped your family, you know, and help you grow, and also kind of brought you into the law, you know, as well. So I don't know what's necessarily going through Hoffman throughout his life, and kind of as he finds out more about his father and this unfair practice that he's been doing. But I do like that Hoffman's at least trying his best to kind of have a more justice.
And
you know?
Lionel did say that he takes 50 pro bono cases a month, whereas it's required that you do 50 a year. So, and that he's taking money from the richer people.
So yes, hashtag eat the rich.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting way of doing it.
But he did say that.
But at least I don't think that Lionel's a bad person per se. He just has a very questionable manner of doing certain things.
He's found his kind of loophole in order to help hashtag eat the rich a little bit. And
now, and here's the other thing, too, is that Chaz, I actually did not think he was bad. I thought he was a good kid. He just got wrapped up in the wrong, with the wrong crowd and was doing the wrong thing. So I feel like a character like Chaz is probably more like a character like Hoffman was at 17. Just, good person deep down, just getting caught up in the wrong business. So it's not like I'm mad that someone's representing Chaz. It'd be a little different if it was some of the guys that were more high up. But Chaz was just the delivery guy. So it's a little not as bad as some of the other questionable characters we met.
I thought it was questionable that the whole steak conversation. Remember the steak conversation?
With it being,
too burnt. But I don't know if that made sense. It was some kind of metaphor for being overworked with 50 hours a month for the pro bono cases.
You took that the same way as me then.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it in my head, like, this metaphor doesn't make sense.
They kept talking about it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took it as like, oh, does it mean about the whole pro bono cases, 50 a month? So. And then Michael Ealy, Hoffman doesn't really, I don't know. I feel like that's something that maybe Hoffman, because he didn't like the overcooked steak. So that's how I took it.
Because the conversation was essentially Lionel saying, you can come and work for me whenever you change your mind. And then Hoffman's response was, well, something along the lines of, I could never afford this burnt steak or something like that. Or I could afford to not eat the burnt steak if I went to work for you. And I was like, okay. Like that, I think I understand kind of what they were going for with that, but I don't think it landed.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad that I wasn't the only one. Or just my mind kind of thinks with like metaphors and symbolism and whatnot sometimes. So I'm glad that you also had a similar feeling to that stupid burnt steak. I just like a nice well done. Well, not a well done. Medium well. Medium well steak.
I like medium well too.
Yeah. There you go. High five. We support
bonding over steak.
Well, let's bond over something else that's very near and dear to our hearts. Dex Perios and weddings. Because Dex in this episode, I mean, till Dex do us part, I always love the titles. She gets hired as a security consultant. That's air quotes. Security consultant by this woman known as Claire. It's a sister to the bride-to-be, Jenna. She's marrying this guy named Scott, also known as Zach, as a tattoo artist. And so what did you think of this whole interesting storyline of Dex kind of being brought into the situation to investigate Scott, aka Zach, and how we come to find out that he's possibly a potential murderer to his ex-lover, Dahlia.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to unpack in this particular storyline.
So one thing about this genre is that, genre of TV is that we always know there's going to be a crazy twist. And so my thinking was it's either, first I was thinking that we were going to think it was Zach and then it wasn't going to be him. But then it is him. But then as we started seeing Claire, the sister, then I started to feel like, okay, because she was acting really shady. The fact that she would even hire Dex in the first place to me was a little shady too. I thought she knew something or that she was somehow, there was another reason why she was hiring Dex than what she let on. So when we started to kind of see more scenes between Dex and Claire, I thought, okay, maybe it's actually Claire who is behind something really weird and shady and illegal. I guess I considered Jenna too, because of course you have to consider it's Jenna that's doing something strange, but I figured it was going to be either Claire or Zach, aka Scott.
Because they are the ones who are most shown, and I always never suspect the person that is the suspect.
Yeah.
Because that's just way too easy. That's terrible writing for sure.
Yeah. Like they have to make you think, oh no.
Unless it's a huge twist that makes you go roller coaster after roller coaster, yada, 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 fast pass,
Or like they trick
jazz.
you and they make you think that, oh no, this guy's nice, and then
But we really didn't see a whole lot of Jenna in this episode, so that really set it up to kind of find the huge twist to come to find out that basically, kind of backtrack a little bit, Dahlia is this character that Scott was in love with. He felt like he murdered her. He was the reason of her death, because of the whole fight that they had. And then she left the car. She left to go driving. And then I remember we were watching it together. I looked at you, Rachel, and I was like, did she get into was she drinking and driving? What exactly happened with this accident? And come to find out, the huge revelation was there was drinking and driving involved, but it wasn't Dahlia. It was actually Jenna who was drinking and driving.
And the big dead giveaway was that she lied to Zach, aka Scott, and said that she had a husband and had been married. And then there was nothing on her Instagram.
To save face for herself, so he wouldn't automatically, just to make her look better.
Yeah. And I think too, what I got the sense of is that Jenna knew that she knew what she had done, and that she decided she was going to manipulate the situation, go to Zach because she felt guilty. And then, it probably just, I feel like I could see this in a movie somewhere where she, pretty much it just slipped and she just said, oh, I had been married and my husband died. And, I couldn't stop myself from saying it. I feel like that's probably what happened, even though we didn't see any of this. Yeah. And then it just escalated from there until she wanted to marry the guy.
It was crazy, though. It really was crazy because the cause of death brought her into this character's life, and she probably felt so much guilt for taking this girl's life due to drunk driving because of the accident. And it's just so funny that he felt all this guilt this whole time, even though he really shouldn't have, because he wasn't the cause of Dahlia's death. And he even had a tattoo of a Dahlia on his chest because he's a tattoo artist. And that's another reason why he was investigated on from Claire, because they just looked at him, wrote him off as, oh, he's just some tattoo artist.
Yeah.
So what does he have? There's not going to be a prenup, so we have to investigate this character. And I love the conversation with Dex and Zach or Scott, whatever you want to call him. He's Zach as a tattoo artist. That's how he's known.
Yeah.
About kind of how the tattoo, and Dex wanted this tattoo of a blackbird because it's Benjamin. Blackbird was Benny. That was her former lover. That's the one who passed away. And then it's funny, she's harboring all this guilt for his death. She thought that she could do something to stop it. And that's exactly what Scott was feeling this whole entire time. for Dahlia's death.
And they obviously had a bond, Scott and Dex.
Yes.
And it was, I thought it was very sweet. And it, like it's almost like Jenna obviously lied and said she had this husband who didn't exist. But really, if they had met, like they said, if Dex had met Scott in a different time, they might have been the two people to bond over having deceased, significant others.
Yeah, and the tattoo, I love also going back to the conversation. She ended up getting the blackbird tattoo at the end, and it was just this small little thing on her. It looked really cute, in remembrance of Benny, you know. And I love that at first she didn't want to get it. She was just kind of joking around because she thought, oh, this is just a symbol reminder of a corpse, basically. And I love that he was kind of like, oh, you don't need to see something to necessarily it's basically what he said was, you choose how you remember someone, and I thought that was really beautiful. And I think tattoos are awesome, and I think people like look at them and kind of write them off as something that's not beautiful or not something that's sentimental, when really I feel like there is so much artistry within them and so much meaning and lots of memories that can be embedded in tattoo.
And also, there's this whole thing. I don't know. I mean, Zach kind of hinted at it. There is actually this line of, there are places you can go to get tattoos that it's beyond just getting a tattoo. It's actually a therapeutic thing that people can do. It's also, for some people, it's also spiritual, and it's like you're working through some of the grief that that you've accumulated after losing somebody or after something traumatic. So it makes sense to me that beyond, like, whether, like Zach said, like they're still going to be in your heart whether you physically see a tattoo or not. And so to watch Dex go through the process, I felt like it was her next stage of grief.
And I feel like she just keeps getting better and better. She's literally going through the stages and whatnot in order to really rid this guilt of Benny. So it's just very beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. I was here for this. I was here for this episode. It was such a good episode.
I love the information we got, too, about, even every time she talks about Benjamin, it's very, like, I love those moments. I love hearing more about her life with him.
Yeah, I want to know more. They keep teasing it. It's literally kind of like, it is a procedural, but yet we get probably like 5 episodes, we'll get this seed, and it's planted 5 episodes later. And also going back, last thing I'll say about Scott, I love that he even said the pain that you feel is through the process of getting a tattoo is kind of cathartic. It's kind of like, it's also kind of like, it's better to feel that pain physically than emotionally, mentally, which you've been feeling. And so when you feel that pain, it kind of, and then you finally get the finished tattoo, there's something it's a beautiful feling, and it's very symbolic.
Yeah.
And so we love tattoos here at AfterBuzz TV. We support it. But, I did love the scene where Jenna was begging for forgiveness because she did reveal that she was the killer. The murderer. She wasn't the killer. She took, unfortunately, due to drunk driving, she took the life of Dahlia, and he didn't forgive her. He walked out on her at the wedding, and she just broke down, and he had tears crawling down his face. It was just...
He did the right thing, though, obviously.
He did. What do you do in that situation, man?
I mean, she lied about who she was, and she decides only to tell him when they're on the altar together. Yeah, there was no situation where they would end up together after that. And
the award for most awkward wedding goes to Stumptown.
Hashtag wedding crashers.
I would have to skip that reception.
Yeah. We were talking about that. Like, does it still happen? I mean, what are they celebrating?
No.
Her confession? But I have a comment about the sister.
Oh, yes.
I think I will wait until we get to our stumped moment, though, because Well, speaking
of that, let's get right to it then.
All right,
because you taking the reins of our special segment this week.
I will. So this is our segment where we talk about moments that we were just, quite frankly, stumped. Okay, now, this was my big question, and we were talking about this beforehand.
Yeah.
The question is, did the sister know anything? And I'm going with the assumption that she knew everything, including who the person was that her sister had killed that night. So going on that assumption, my biggest stumped moment is, why did Claire go to a detective to look into this case when she knew that it was going to come back and that this detective might dig and find out that her sister had killed someone while drunk driving? I'm very stumped that Claire would do this, considering what she knew. And here's the thing, even if she didn't know that her sister had killed Dahlia, that her sister had killed the man who she was marrying's ex-fiance, even if she didn't know that little piece of information, she knew her sister had done something very awful. You don't want a detective coming in and investigating anybody around your sister. Exactly.
No, that's really good.
I'm confused.
You make sense. You're making sense.
Claire.
Complete sense.
Yeah.
I'm confused. I think she didn't know the connection. I think maybe she didn't know she knew the drunk driving and whatnot, the DUI she probably got.
Yeah.
But she probably just didn't know the connection between, I'm assuming she didn't know the connection between Dahlia and Scott at all. If she had to bring Dex into the case, literally the case. So I think she was completely, and also the whole money issue about the parents possibly like disowning her if she does. So she really just wanted to find out. She had to not know him at all and his connection. I'm assuming at least, but you're making a good point.
It's hard to know.
If she did know everything, because like you said at the wedding, she was saying, she was telling her sister, Jenna, stop talking when she was revealing. So it is questionable of like, oh, Jenna or Claire, why would you bring Dex into the matter in the first place?
I think we can both agree that the sister at least knew there had been a drunk driving accident where she had harmed somebody.
Right.
So even if that is all the sister knew, which, even if that's it, why do you bring a detective? Why?
I don't know, Claire. Well, I don't know, Claire. You have to tell us. Let us know. What do you think? What do you think of this matter? But my stunt moment, that's a very good stunt moment. I'm kind of here with you. But I would say my stunt moment was when Dex asked Scott, did you kill Dahlia? And he said, yes.
Oh.
Because I was so stumped at that moment because I literally believed him. I'm thinking, he's about to confess and this episode's only 20 minutes in.
And you literally, I was sitting right next to you and you were like, what?
He really did kill her. But then he obviously explained, I'm the reason she died through the accident because she just walked out on me. And that's why he was harboring so much guilt. So it made sense, but it definitely stumped me for a couple seconds, for sure. Rachel was there. She was a witness.
I can attest to the fact that there was an audible gasp, and it didn't come from me.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. Well, you guys, thank you so much, Rachel, for our special segment. It's so much fun laughing about our stunt moments week after week. And also, let us know your stunt moments of the week, because we want to know. So let us know. We do have some exciting news from Stumptown. So first and foremost, we have to shout out our boy, Adrian Martinez. He has his Instagram. You have to follow him. He is giving us always the behind the scenes of Stumptown week after week. This is him and Cole, who plays Ansel, and of course Jake Johnson. I love seeing their BTS photos. So you got to follow Adrian, Taste of Adrian on Instagram. You were going to say something?
I was going to say, I can't even imagine what's going on in this picture.
I don't know, but I think this is exactly why I feel like this should be a good caption this. That's the caption for this, I feel like.
And for anybody who's listening, what we're looking at is a picture of Jake Johnson, who plays Gray. He's blindfolded next to Ansel. And then we've got an image of Tuki looking out at us like he is very concerned.
Yes. And you just can't help but to smile. And I love how Instagram can kind of just keep you updated on your favorite actors and influencers and whatnot. And Adrian's always posting about what his future roles. He even posted about a couple weeks back about him being on the new season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. So you just have to follow the cast and see what they're up to constantly, especially the behind the scenes photos.
I'm excited to see him on Curb.
Oh, yes. Yeah, such a good show. But next, a little thing called the Oscars was happening this past weekend. I don't know if you know what that is. It's just like a little award show. But our girl, Kobe Smulders, was looking bomb, okay? She was wearing this beautiful white gown. She went to the Vanity Fair party, and I just wanted to shout her out because she was, to me, one of the best dressed of the night. She would just look so good. She was with her husband. They attended the party, Taryn. But yeah, the Oscars happened. I'm just waiting for Kobe to get her Oscar. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
She deserves one.
She totally does. Or her Emmy.
Emmy. Maybe this show can get nominated for something, or Critics' Choice, something. Yeah. Because I'm here, absolutely love it with this show week after week. But why don't we get to our burning predictions, Rachel?
Your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say it.
Yes.
I hope that Zach comes back and that he does end up dating Dex.
You think so?
I hope so. I don't even know if I can say that as a prediction, but that ending line of they both said that they wish they had met under different circumstances. I was like, yeah, me too.
Wow, he really had an impact on you. No, I love that. I guess it kind of went over my head. I kind of took it as like, well, people come and go. There's beauty in uncertainty, I suppose. Maybe people come and go for a reason in your life. And maybe that doesn't mean to kind of stay. Some people come and go, but yet they leave a mark on you. Which literally what he did with the tattoo.
He did.
Oh my God.
He left his mark for good.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Any more predictions? Any more that you're thinking? Because we are seeing the cast go to Hollywood. Dex is going to Hollywood.
Yeah, and that's okay. So that's another thing is that obviously we're located in LA. We both live in LA. Sometimes it's crazy because when they say they're in Portland, the backdrop does not look like Portland. It looks like
literally
like
DTLA.
a mountain. Yeah,
Downtown LA.
Yeah, and so, but there are other times where they're definitely in Portland.
Yeah.
But I guess going along with that, I feel like we're gonna see a Dex and Gray moment where they start to get closer. That's really what I want to see. Like, to me, they are endgame couple. Even though I just talked about Zach. Yes.
He was a one-off. One night stand.
Yeah, but I feel like they're an endgame couple, and that this will be the moment when they can actually bond and maybe take things to the next level.
I like it. I like that. I definitely think they need that. I'm just really interesting. I don't know why Dex isn't really going to Hollywood. It just kind of feels a little out of the blue because I mean she's in Oregon. I don't know. But let us know your predictions for next week. I'm super excited to come back next week because I would love to see her. We've been in Portland, so let's go to LA and whatnot. Let's go to Hollywood.
Let's do it.
Until then, Rachel, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Rach Goodman or on my author Instagram account at Rachel Radner Author. I'm also on the Curb Your Enthusiasm, Outlander, Outlander, The Young and the Restless, and the Doctor Who panels.
She's doing it all. She's booked and busy, y'all. And I'm your host, Ollie Drennan. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Ollie Dreamer. And until then, we'll see you next week for another rendition of Stumptown. Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.